The fact that you were imprisoned at Belmarsh, and there were only two other prisoners at the time in what they called the suites, and Julian Assange was another one of them, tells
and he cried every day. So Julian Assange is a wreck. So speaking to I obviously asked the prison officers who come to my cell to open up. I said, "What's Julian like?" They said, "He's a mess. He's crying every day." He spoke to me twice, Julian. Twice. Twice. How long was I there? Months. He spoke twice. And then the other, because you can shout out the window. Where my cell was, there's a little square, so in a courtyard. So even though you're on solitary, you don't get any sun either, because I used to look at the sun because it's a high courtyard, the sun would only come down the top half of the building. Right. All I thought every day is I want to stand in the sun, man. Yeah. It's peak summer, I want to be in the sun. But I used to go out and stand there and I'd walk around. And the hospital wing's above. So prisoners are in hospital, in jail for anything, they're in the wing above. Now, Julian Assange went from where he was to the hospital wing, so he's in the cell there. He's just there. Yeah. Only twice he answered, and he's there. And I spoke, the prisoner next door would shout out, said, "Mate, he's gone. This fella next door's gone. He's screaming, crying every day. Yeah, they've fucked him. He's totally, like, psychologically." And when I spoke to the prison officers, they'd say the same. It's off his head. Huh. I said, "Of course he's off his head. He spent 8 years locked in a room. He's going to be off his head. Yeah. Get him out, like, let him see people at least."
I'm very worried about that. Yeah. And I felt like when you were in prison, because you didn't really have a team around you, had a little bit of a team, but you didn't have I went to law school, I had done crowdfunding before, I
remember sitting in jail and Ezra would know what to do.
And I did. I felt like, I'm an unusual shaped puzzle piece, but this was like a perfect fit for me, like for that project. But when you came out, and we still worked a little bit, but after a while, okay, you're out, you're your own man, you're doing your own thing. I felt like helping on that project, helping find the lawyers and appeal. I don't know how long you would have lasted in
now I look at myself. So I look at myself I got out of jail that night. I gave an interview to Tucker Carlson. When I watched that video, I'm like, wow, I was a mess. Yeah. My eyes are gone. Everything's gone. And I remember coming out, and I remember, because I went on holiday, didn't I? I remember on the plane, there's a video of my kids playing on the plane, and I'm like that when I watch the video, because I'm absolutely shocked as to what is going on.
I think you were messed up for months.
Messed up for years, not months.
It's caused me to rethink prison and solitary confinement. Well, frankly, I never really thought about it before. But
I think of the January 6th lads now. Imagine what they're going through.
Yeah, when you came out, I did my best to not gasp at how you looked. Like, it was shocking.
I look back at it now. I look back at it now and I think, how the fuck have they got away with it?
And where are
the human rights lawyers? Where are
they? I remember I was in London, the Canadian government and the UK government together had a media freedom conference.
You went to it, yeah.
And with Julian Assange and you in prison, they had this conference and they beat their chests about how freedom-oriented they are. And I think it's called the Committee to Protect Journalists. I think that's what it's called. And they have a booth, and I went up to them and I said, "What about Tommy Robinson?" And they said, "Oh, well, he was convicted." Yeah, well, that's the whole point. Is that of course he was convicted under a law.
Not by jury.
It's not an extrajudicial, like he wasn't kidnapped. Of course it was through a legal process. I'm here to say the legal process was bogus and unfair and illiberal and wrong. Oh, well. Your whole job. Like, look at your Committee to Protect Journalists, I think it's called. And
they go mad if this happened to a journalist in another country. They go mad. Even the current thing, banned from his capital city, they go mad. I sit and think, not just them, where's the commentators, where's the news presenters,
and where's the lawyers? Because, when you were arrested for contempt, I studied the law, I was very interested, and we got some good lawyers who did some good work. Contempt of court, you have to have a written summary of what the person did wrong. They have to have a chance to bring themselves into, they have to have a chance to apologize and say to the law, "I'm sorry." But the whole idea of contempt is that the judge thinks you are against the whole system. And the judge wants to know you're governable and that you're not rogue. So the judge has to put you a written list, well, you did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, and to give you a chance to correct it and say, "Your Honor, actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that, and I agree with your authority, and I submit to it." Okay, fine. You were the first journalist jailed under contempt of court in 80 years. And the
And
process...
some have done far worse. Some have collapsed trials. Stephen Lawrence's trial was collapsed because of Rod Little's report, I think.
And there's so many lawyers in this country who have everything to say about the rights of Shamima Begum. Am I saying that right?
Shamima Begum.
And all the, all these atrocious people. You'll have a never-ending river of civil liberties lawyers taking up their case, and Amnesty International and every group you can name. I don't think one of them said a word about you. And I remember when you finally won in the Court of Appeal and I was in town, and I did like 2 BBC interviews, I did a bunch of interviews. So that's the regime media, the media party, the folks who I would sit next to in court, and they would write a pack of lies every day. And some of them interviewed me the day you were out. Not one of them. You know what? I remember the BBC interviewed me about you, and they wanted to instead. You had just won a unanimous verdict by the Court of Appeal, chaired by no one less than the Lord Chief Justice for England. Yeah. Like the most senior judge you can find said everything about this was BS. Wow. No questions about that. Well, Tommy Robinson...
They should have been going after the judge that sent me to jail.
Yeah, 4 years ago, Tommy Robinson said that, what? Today is the news day. Tommy Robinson won his appeal, smashed the charges against him. The Lord Chief Justice himself said it was a great travesty of justice. And you're asking me about some quip Tommy Robinson said 4 years ago? So it's not just the failure of the media and the law professors and the courts and the police. The fellow journalists would have thrown you in prison themselves. And you know what? I was in court live tweeting, and I'm going to be in court tomorrow. You've got a hearing on this other ban from London thing. And I go into court, and I'm very polite, and I like to get there early, and I like to tweet. I'm a fast typist, so I really live tweet your proceedings. So I enjoy it.
I was going to ask you, so I'm glad you're here. I was going to ask you, because there's been a couple of things where I've sat in court and think the public aren't, because it would have been with the Jamal case, yeah, right, which they found me guilty, yeah. Right. If I needed someone like yourself tweeting from that court case, because the public got totally lied to. When it got to our witnesses giving evidence, all the media got up and walked out of court.
Yeah.
I was like that.
I'm a fast typist, thanks to my parents sending me to typing school when I was a kid. And I'm a former lawyer, so I sort of understand, even though the UK system is a little different, it's pretty similar to Canada. So when I'm in court, I'm pretty fast. I'm a faster typist than the BBC guys and the Guardian and the others. So I don't know if you know this, twice I was covering your trials.
They tried to get you done.
Dominic Casciani,
the head of the BBC, the main BBC journalist, tried to get you done for contempt.
He complained to the Met Police. He personally complained, and once they started a file, he reported about his own complaint without saying it was his complaint.
Ezra Levant's being investigated after he's the man who put the complaint.
And then a second time, and this was at, I forget which courthouse, so I'm sitting there and I'm...
The Old Bailey.
Yeah.
And
then suddenly, all the judges get up and leave. So I see out of the corner of my eye, a clerk handing a piece of paper to the judges getting up and leaving right away. And for 1 second I thought, oh, there's a security incident. But that doesn't make sense because they left the rest of them in there. And everyone in the courtroom is saying, what's going on? And I had this tiny sneaking suspicion. And I thought, no, it's not because of me. That's just, the whole world doesn't revolve around me. It's not because of me. But I went to and I was chummy with the clerks because I get there really early and I chat with the clerks. I said to the clerk, I know this is crazy, but these judges who just left in a hurry, that's nothing to do with me. Imagine how stupid a question that is. Yeah. And she said, well, yes, it is because of you. I said, what?
Because they didn't want you reporting from the court.
What are you talking about? She swear, I swear to God, Tommy, that the BBC wrote her a note saying, tell the judges that Ezra is live tweeting against the rules. So the clerk took that message, in the middle of your trial. Your life and liberty hangs in the balance. It's called, at the time, the Queen versus Tommy Robinson. It's got nothing to do with me or the BBC. We are observers there. The BBC is not a party to this prosecution. They're an observer like me. And we're watching the trial, and the chutzpah to interrupt a trial? And for what?